Hello and welcome back to At Ease No Media, where we discuss media related topics at ease. So, today in this video, we will be talking about Asian communication theory. So, let's start with a simple story. Once in an Himalayan monastery, a student asked his guru, Master, what is the best way to people listen? The monk smiled and replied, Listen first, speak last. Confused, the student asked, But what if they don't understand? The monk poured tea into a cup until it overflowed and said, Words that are not kind, useful, and peaceful spill like this tea. Only when you speak with heart, others will hear with their ear. This story actually reflects something deep and powerful. The Asian way of communication rooted in mindfulness, emotion, and community, not just logic and persuasion. So let's divide into the world of Asian communication theory, where communication is not just about sending and receiving, but about connecting souls. Asian communication theory. So, what is Asian communication theory? Asian communication theory refers to communication models, practices, and philosophies rooted in Asian thought systems such as Buddhism, Hinduism, Confucianism, and indigenous tradition. Unlike Western model, this is different from Western model, which are often linear, sender-centric, and emphasizes logic and objectivity. Asian theory are more cyclical, emotionally rich, and you know what? It's community oriented. What is the different from Western theories? How Asian theory is different from Western theories? Western focuses information transfer, clarity, persuasion. For example, take the example of Shannon and Weaver model. But if we talk about Asian focus, it's emotional harmony, it's spiritual connection, it's cultural values. In Asian theory, feedback is not just response, it's emotional response. The way someone smiles, the way someone remains silent or nods is just as important as what they say. Now we know this particular thing, that the West emphasized on individualism, the Asia or the East emphasized on reciprocal responsibility between individual and society. The West emphasizes on control of nature, the East emphasizes on harmony. The West looks at the world divide, the East looks at the world as a whole, the interconnectedness. The West sees bounded time, the East sees infinity time. Now we will be talking about the Buddhist model. Shelton Gurton's work includes books such as Mindful Journalism and Media Ethics in the Digital Era. A Buddhist approach and Asian communication theory. It was a Tao of the Press 2005. So what is Buddhist model? It emphasizes on receivers. Buddhist model mainly emphasizes on receivers. The understanding, a key notion, focus on choice, emphasizes on both outward and inward process. That means it emphasizes on both outward and inward process. Now it's the relationship between communication and receiver is symmetrical. You know, symmetrical, it's a relationship between symmetrical objects. Now it's stress on empathy, it's stress on mindful journalism. There are four concepts of Buddhist communication model or Buddhist model, that is the truthfulness, the kindness, the usefulness, and the peace. Now if we talk about this, if we dig a little deeper about Buddhist communication model, the Buddhist model, then we know one of the key scholar is Dr. Shelton A. Grunty, Gurantne, who proposed the Buddhist communication model based on the middle path and mindfulness. The four components are truthfulness, that means sabka. Speak only what is true, rooted in honesty. Then we have kindness, that is metta. That means your words should reduce suffering. In Japanese culture, indirect speech is used to avoid hurting others. And the third is the usefulness or the astavasa, speaks only what is beneficial to others. In India, oral traditions, stories convey moral teachings. Now, peace means samatha. Your message should create harmony, not conflict. Example, Mahatma Gandhi's speeches that claimed crowds during tension. So, this was the Buddhist model. Now we will be talking about Sadharanikaran model. It is a systematic representation of communication process from a Hindu perspective. Back in 2003, Sadharanikaran illustrates how the communicating parties interact in a system. This is the Asian system, how the communicating parties interact with the system. A state of communication, a mutual understanding. It's a systematic representation of communication process from a Hindu perspective. It illustrates how the communication parties interact in a system for the attainment of communication or wants. Important terms of Sadharanikaran model which we will be discussing is that the preksha, that means the sender, the prapaka, that means the receiver, and the elements of communication in Sadharanikaran model is the bhava, that means the mood or emotions. There are different types of bhavas, as you can see, the rati, the hasa, the sokha, the krodha, the utsa. Rati means it evolves Sringra, that means the erotic, the romance, the love, rati. The hasa means it evokes hasa, that means comic, love, humor. The sloka means it evolves karuna, pathetic, comparison, and sadness. It evolves krodha, that is, it evolves rudra, furious, indigestions, and anger, krodh. And it also covers utsa, that means it evokes vira, heroic. Now we have talked about bhava. We will be understanding it with different examples right now. So avijana, that means expression or encoding. The sandesha, that is message or information. The sarani, that is channel. The rasa sadhana, that means receiving, decoding, interpreting message and achieving rasa. The disha means noise. So this is the Asian term, the sandarbha, that is the context. The pratiksha, that is the process or feedback, and homophily or common emotion. So to talk about this particular model, this is one of the most comprehensive model from South Asia, rooted in the Naya philosophy. You have studied Naya philosophy in the teaching aptitude part, in the higher education part. So it talks about the Naya philosophy or logic and aesthetics, the rasa. If we talk about the core concept, it's the preksha, that means the sender. The prapaka, preksha means sender, the prapaka means receiver. The bhava, that means the different emotions or mental state. The avivanjana, that means the expression or inner emotion. The sandesha, that means the message. The sarani, that means the medium or channel. The rasa sadhana, that means emotional testing by the receiver. The dasha, that means the context or situational stress. The sandarbha. What is sandarbha? Sandarbha means the cultural or situational context. The pratiksha, that means the response. This model shows communication as a shared and participatory process. Mark the word, it's a participatory process. More about emotional communication than information transmission. Alright. So rasa means love, hasa means laughter, sokha means sorrow, krodha means anger, utsa means enthusiasm. In a traditional performance, the dancer express bhava through gestures and the audience express rasa through understanding. Now, if we talk about the important terms, we are now talking about the important terms of Sadharanikaran model, hai na? Isn't it? Sadharanikaran model. So what can be the examples of Sadharanikaran model? So it clearly states that the Sadharanikaran model of communication, it is known as SMC. It focused on, as I have said, a traditional katha, the Hindu storyteller. What they are doing, they doesn't just narrate facts, they evoke bhavas, the emotions. That means the rati, the hasa, the sokha, the krodha, the utsa. So The aesthetic delight, the culturally rooted and emotionally rich. It incorporates elements from classical Indian theatre, especially the concept of rasa and bhava. In Odisha, Pala performance artists use facial expressions, music and cultural context to connect with rural audience emotionally, especially those who may be literate or non-verbal illiterate. It states it's with the illiterate part, right? So with this connection, with this holistic communication approach, the communication becomes more easier, isn't it? Now we will be talking about the traditional media of communication. So if we talk about the traditional media of communication, as you can see, Asian communication didn't start with TV or printing. It started with performance and storytelling. This is most important part. So Nautanki means Tamil folk theatre, Harikatha means devotional storytelling, Pala Udiya musical drama. Dakshata means Bengali village storytelling. Folk comedy means as a model of social critique. This media forms are interactive, communal, and you know what? Emotionally immersive and aimed at collective understanding, not individual perceptions. Now we will be talking about the levels of speech, the four different levels of speech in Sadharanikaran model. So the four levels of speech are, according to Vedic linguistics, speech has four levels. The Pada, that means the divine speech, the cosmic vibration. The Prasanti, that means visualized speech, inner thought. The Madhyama, that means the mental speech, the inner dialogue. The Vikhari, that means the spoken speech, the external communication. Most people hear Vikhari, but powerful communication speaks from Madhyama. That means Madhyama, that means the inner communication, what we are thinking, the mindfulness and emotional awareness. Now if we talk about the four elements of mindfulness according to the Indian rhetoric, so Indian communication emphasizes not just what is said but also how it is felt and experienced. This is most important, the feeling, the emotion. So the rhetoric values are listening to yourself before speaking, using silence as a form of expression, listening deeply to others, speaking slowly, clearly and concisely, choosing emotionally intelligent words. So this was it with the part where we have discussed about the Sadharanikaran model. If we talk about the Asian communication, yesterday we talked about the cultural study. We have completed Jacques Derrida. Now we have talked about communication theory, the different from Western, the Asian communication theory, the Buddhist model. Then we have talked about the Sadharanikaran model, the importance of Sadharanikaran model, and the Preksha, Upekha, these all things. Then we talked about the types of verbs, the traditional media of communication, the levels of speech, and the Indian rhetoric. So tomorrow we will be starting our PYQ series according to WB set. These are the questions which I have assembled. First we will be talking about the questions from communication. Then in the next part we will be talking about the questions from models and theories. Then we will be talking about questions from names, books and scholars and authors. Then we will be talking about history of newspaper. We will be talking about the questions of history of newspaper, following with schools of communication and folk theatre. And then we will be having a few questions from this unit, the communication and introduction to journalism, where we will be talking about few jargons and names. Then we will be focusing on the current affairs topics. After that we will be completing our full communication unit 1. Then we will be moving to our unit number 2, that is development communication. So the next time you speak, ask yourself, is it truthful, kind, useful or peaceful? Is it Asian way communication or Western way communication? So that is not just a communication technique as I have discussed today. It's a way of life in Asian culture. Western theories taught us how to speak clearly. Asian theories teaches us how to speak mindfully. Thank you for connecting at Ease No Media, where we discuss media related topics at ease. See you tomorrow.